All sports talk shows are the same, right?
I am bothered by everything.
You gotta go back to football school.
The goal on this guy, it's just immeasurable.
Wrong. In a world filled with talking heads more interested in their own celebrity than actually knowing the sports world, it's hard to find the people who really care about sports first. Look no further. Wire to Wire has it all covered. These guys have the knowledge and the cred to back up their opinions. No hot takes to get attention, just straight up opinions. Know anyone else who correctly called the 2020 World Series and March Madness? How about 70% on the NFL and NCAA football last year? You don't. Bottom line, these guys know their shit. They aren't doing it for attention, they're doing it for passion. Wire to Wire. Live every Wednesday, 8:30 Eastern, only on Toxic Radio and wherever you find podcasts. You know what all the cool kids are doing these days? Listening to podcasts. And what does Toxic Radio have? Podcasts, duh.
Just as I thought.
Go to toxicradio.net and check out our weekly schedule for the lineup of great shows. Miss any of them live? No worries.
Thank God, dude.
We're on all the top podcast platforms, or just find them at toxicradio.net or on the free app. The choice is yours. Be cool or not.
We're gonna be cool.
Toxic Radio. Get the podcasts. Get infected. Does the real world seem unsatisfying?
It's boring, but it's part of my life.
Well, time to level up and reboot reality. Join Toxic Mike and Demonoid as they explore the ever-evolving world of virtual reality and everything it has to offer. Whether you're just starting out or you've been there from the beginning, Reboot Reality will introduce, educate, and guide you to the best in VR. Find it wherever you get podcasts at toxicradio.net or on the free Toxic Radio app. Reboot Reality. Log in and get immersed.
Hungry for Hope Nation. I'm your host at Toxic Radio live from their studio. I am Donnie Hart, joined by my wonderful, my amazing, my awesome, my fabulous, my so strong and powerful co-host,
yes.
Angela.
Yes, funny and oh so intelligent. Hello, Hope Nation.
Hello.
Hello.
We have a great show, man. Awesome show. We got two amazing guests coming on. We're going to start off the show. He's been on the show before. He actually came all the way from Oregon live on the show last time. Today we're going to try him in Oregon. You know, we got to switch things up a little. We got Richard Jensen.
Sweet. Thanks, guys. Donnie, awesome.
Richard, so great to see you.
I think it was about a year, right?
Yeah, we had you at the end of last September.
God, yeah, that's right. Good stuff.
Last time we had you in studio. For anybody who didn't see that episode, shame on you. It is on Apple Podcasts and everything. Your story is the definition of hope. You were just a rundown 15 years of addiction, homelessness. You did 7 years in jail. And in your mid-30s, you got out, you started trying to put the pieces back together, and you went back to the one thing you felt really gave you structure in your life, and that was, of all things, wrestling. And not the professional wrestling I did. I was a huge regular wrestling fan, wrestled my whole life growing up. You went back to them days where you were on your high school wrestling team. I know your coach meant so much to you, and you went back to that. And then just share real quick before we get into, there you are at like 34, 35. You spent 15 years of homelessness, addiction, in and out of jail, and then there you are, 34, 35. What the hell were you thinking?
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. You got to find your passion, that whatever it is that keeps you interested, keeps you focused, and helps keep you grounded. And especially coming from such a demise that I was dealing with. Years of addiction and prison and homelessness, as you said. I mean, my life was a disaster, and there I was trying to figure out what to do, and besides getting the professional help that I needed, that's treatment, mentorship, and things like 12-step, things like that, I needed something else, man. And, sports are a huge huge solution for a lot of us, especially being an old athlete and knowing what life was like being part of the team, being an athlete, living a healthy life, focusing on goals, bettering yourself, self-evaluation and finding yourself. And so I found myself through the sport of wrestling, Donnie. And I was a wrestler as a kid. So, and I think that was the recipe as a kid that helped me not only get through school, but have a little identity, a little sense of purpose, motivation. And wrestling brought that to me. And so when I was trying to come from years of bad choices, finding a solution in 12-step and NA and self-help groups and things like that, I realized how important it was going to be for me to become that athlete again. I knew that it would bring value into my life. I didn't know I'd go on and become a national champion. I just knew that my life was going to get better,
It's even better, right, when you get that championship?
Yeah, it's
even
just
better.
Get better, I learned about self-discipline through the sport. Focus, perseverance. Getting up when things get hard. And I was trying to get up from something really tough. And I knew wrestling would bring that structure to my life that I needed really badly.
I remember when you first got out, you said you had tried a little before that. You had given it's not like you didn't want to get your life together. You had mentioned you tried like hell, there wasn't anything you weren't willing to do to stop it, but you just couldn't. And it takes a lot for somebody to realize, yeah.
Addiction is a beast, man. It's a gorilla. It is and as we know right now, we're dealing with, mental health and drug addiction. There's some issues going on right now. There's a struggle in the world. And for me personally, I knew that it was a demon that I was having a hard time beating. It was a tough battle. I think I probably went through treatment at least a half a dozen times, trying to get it, trying to stay sober, trying to change my life. And people ask me what what's the magic formula? What's the magic pill? Everybody's got a pill to fix everything today, and unfortunately, my solution for me might not be the same for somebody else, right. But there's a lot of commonality in it. I believe in 12-step. I believe in groups. I believe in counseling. I believe there's help out there for tough times for people, and struggle. I think that for me, I talk about finding that wrestling in your life, Donnie. And it may not be wrestling for you, but find that wrestling in your life. And for me, it was wrestling. It was the key recipe that I needed,
Angela, I know you can relate to a lot of this, Ange.
A lot. I can. Mental health is my career, and that's my field. And
okay.
We definitely have major issues, which we can talk for decades about. But I was curious, Richard, when,
Sure.
during the time of homelessness and during the period of time that you were in jail, do you remember anything specific that kept you going, that gave you hope, that kept you strong?
Yeah, let's just say that, there's this beast of an addict here, but then he's got these kids in his life, and he's got this wonderful mom, and he's got these important people with a lot of leverage, and for me, I'll tell you what, the mentoring program is successful. You find somebody that's been through what you've been through, lived the life that you've lived, has come out the other side, and has instilled some hope in a guy like me. I needed to know that there was a solution and that it was possible, and people had done it before. There's power in that. There's a lot of power in that. And for me, that's where I'm at now. It's like, here I am, I'm out the other side, but in the midst of the struggle, it's hard to see past your nose. It's hard to be present and available and open to the solution, Right. And I think jail time did me well. Jail time did me well sometimes. It gave me that moment of clarity, a little time off the street, time with no drugs, But the motivating factor for me was hitting my bottom, unfortunately, The motivating factor, sometimes you have to hit your bottom, and hopefully you don't die in the midst of it, Right. And I write about it in my book. I'm real clear about when I hit that point. I was really clear about it. There's a few things that happened all at once, and once I hit that bottom, I was done, and I'm ready to climb out of it and start climbing up,
Richard, you bring up, we were actually talking about this before the show. We were sitting down with some people, and we were talking about the thing I think that really it's going to bring up the next point of your life, connecting with people, that peer-to-peer. People know you. They're like, oh, this guy was a national champion wrestler. This guy's a pretty cool dude, man. He did all this stuff. So people are going to look at you. They might listen to Richard Jensen more than they listen to Dr. Smith, the people with all these degrees. No knock on them, man. No knock on them, because doctors are part of my story too. But the peer-to-peer, the talking to people who've been through stuff like me, and that's what's so cool about you. When you got your life together, you found that formula for you, and you turned it into to be a champion. You wrote the book. You went to schools, you started speaking on it, and now you're doing a national tour where you go across the country sharing, like, hey, we don't have that magic potion. But Richard kind of has a formula that worked for him. You always preach what worked for you, because what worked for Richard might not work for Joe Blow.
Right.
And now that's what's so cool with your story. You share it, you're giving back what you found to everybody.
Yeah, I feel like it's the one most important thing I can do in my life today. I got over 18 years clean and sober now. I've been sober a very, very long time. I've gotten way past the hard stuff, and moved on. But, I think that, dad and mom and teacher and coach, a lot of these guys are kind of saying the same thing, but why is it that I'm reaching these kids? Why is it that I'm getting them from a little different angle with the same stuff that dad might be trying to teach them? I think the fact that I've been there, I've done it, I've been through it, I've been through the worst of the struggle, and I've not only come out the other side, but I've actually moved on and found a pretty high level of success in sobriety, in sports, in life, as a father, as a husband. I'm a man of integrity today, and I'm very, very intimate, honest, and vulnerable when I go out and speak and travel with my program. There's no fluff in it. There's no, I didn't learn it in a book, and I think that everybody on the planet can relate to some facet of my story or another. And right now we're going through some really, really tough times the past couple of years. This is a tough time for everybody. And we're needed more now than ever before. Guys like you doing these podcasts are needed more now than ever before. We're all looking for a shred of hope.
Guys and girls, guys and girls, Angela.
Don't forget me, Richard. You're leaving me out.
Yes, we all need a little shred of inspiration and hope.
Yeah, I mean if that's not the understatement of the decade.
Yeah, what you guys are doing, the partnership, woman, man, what you're doing is changing the world. You're changing the world through this little thing right here, and doing. A lot of people like to say I'm out doing God's work from, and what I say is I'm just doing it from my angle, Right. I'm just doing it from my angle. And that's what you guys are doing too. We need more success stories. We need more stories of perseverance. We need hope and inspiration in our life right now more than ever. I've been shut down, dude. I've been shut down. You know, I told you I'm going through a time of shutdown. Like schools are closed, my program's closed.
You're closed, right?
And so I went through a little bit of struggle, a little bit of emotional struggle.
Yeah.
And
So, Richard, I got to ask you about that if you don't mind. Not
yeah.
the. So
yeah.
you got 18 years sober. You have an Emmy. You did the documentary on ESPN. You have a book. You travel the country. But bad thing, you still go through stuff. Now the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
The thing that's bringing you income, you got all this stuff going on, and then it just stops. The train stops.
Yeah.
And back in the day, maybe you would have went to drug, alcohol, whatever. What do you do now? How do you get through that?
Yeah.
How does Richard Jensen today, 18 years sober, the guy with the Emmy, how do you get through that rough time, man? Because rough times still happen. You can be sober, you can be out of jail. Rough times still happen.
Doesn't matter, yeah.
I get it. I process things differently today. I deal with emotion differently today than I ever did before. It was always, hey, if you're happy, have a bottle. If you're sad, have a bottle. Somebody dies, have a bottle, and, kind of lose myself and not really, that's just nature of the beast, Today it's different. I live in emotion, dude. I'm like you. I wear my emotions on the sleeve. I'm very open and honest. I communicate really well, and I'm empathetic and compassionate, and I'm a team player. But I worked really hard to get where we're at. Mind you, I worked really super hard, and it's not really. Let's get down to it, dude. It's not about the Emmy. It's not about the national title. Those are the things I was chasing. That was the goal. But at the end of the day, it's the guy I became in the process that really mattered, like that's the real championship, is that father that showed up. It's that husband, it's the guy I became. So, and with that said, that's all cool to talk about, but it's the man that I am today. And I'll tell you what, in 18 and 19, we had 30 to 50 events. We spoke to upwards of 30, 40,000 kids around the country. Went to zero. Okay. And so when you're chasing something that hard, it's very deflating when it just gets taken out from under you, and so I went through a little process of my own, the do we shut down? Do we what am I gonna do here? What, how long is this gonna last? Insecurities kick in. Not sure if we're gonna be able to relaunch again. And then a year goes by, 2 years go by. It's whoa, so what I did is I worked on what I was in control of. I stopped and decided, what am I in control of? That's staying relevant and staying visible online. That's getting the book published. That's getting the bus wrapped. I went out and I let everybody know we're not done yet. But I'm at my best when I'm connecting with kids, dude, and that's one thing I haven't been able to do, man. Is connect with Johnny.
What drives you? How do you have so much? I know I have it too, man. When we met, we're like two peas in the same. I connected to you right away, and you can't get rid of me now. What drives you? What keeps you still going during them hard times, brother?
I believe in the vision. I believe in the goal. I believe in what we're doing so deeply that I'm not willing. I'm like a dog on a bone, dude. I'm out to talk to every kid in the country. You understand? No, every kid in the country. That's the goal. Like, I'm not done yet. Every kid. So, maybe I've spoke to 500,000 so far, but I know there's billions, okay?
Many more.
I'm out to do that. And then I take a look at also the situation the world's in right now. It should be fuel on hope speakers' fires. The situation the world's in right now, when we get to the other side, which we should be moving there, these programs should be on fire, So I'm still holding on to that, like we're gonna be on fire. And then obviously, this is the first time everything's been organically grown, and this is the first year I took a little risk, Donnie. I licked and sticked 20,000 envelopes, dude, this year. I licked and stamped 20,000 envelopes, dude.
You talk about this passion, how that keeps you driving. I'm telling you, one of the things, and it wasn't their fault, but I was offended so much about a month ago, because now a lot of my legal stuff, a lot of stuff that was going on in my life when I started this Hungry for Hope, they got better. Obviously, I'm getting past this legal stuff. People are recognizing who I am, and they're like, "Oh, so now you're gonna stop, right? You're done. Like you got out of that hole, and you're done." I was like, "I'm done. I'm done. I couldn't stop if I wanted to stop, Richard. It's like a drug, man. I wake up, I step in there, like, why? I got to do more. Who can I help?" I think that vision of me sitting in jail, losing my brother, I can never get that vision out of my head. That hopelessness, that just, I was lost, man. And it was such a horrible feeling. If I can just help one person who's feeling that, or help one person not go through that. Angela's going, same thing. Angela knows that feeling. Is when she got diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. When you were sitting in jail and your mom passed away, Richard, and you couldn't do anything. When I was in jail, my brother, just that feeling, that's what keeps me going. Like, who can I help? Who can I don't want to sleep. I want to keep going. And some days I'm not as good as I can be. I'm not perfect. I'm still a nutcase. But I try, man. I'm going to keep on trying. And as this train keeps on going, it's never going to stop. It's just getting bigger, man. And people like you, people like Angela, people like Joey Enright, who's in the studio with us, all the amazing people in my life, the people who have become my life because of Hungry for Hope, the friends. They're the ones, they are the gasoline. If they don't know it, they are the gasoline building this fire. These people who tell me at the end of the day, now you're doing good, or I'm proud of you, or the people who come on the show and share, people like Angela, if you want this to stop, you guys got to stop, and I still won't stop, but you guys are building this even bigger. The more I go, the more.
Right.
Exactly.
That's the key right there. Here I am shut down, and I'm getting emails, and I'm getting messages, and I'm getting stories, and I'm just like, it's keeping me fed. It's keeping me inspired, Donnie. Same thing. We do need that. We need that. We need to know that little Johnny made it through a tough time. We need to know that, somebody can't wait to have their son read my book. We need kids to go home and can't quit talking about the Rich Jensen story when they get home to mom and dad. We need mom to email me and say, "Hey, what you did for my son is amazing, and thank you." We need all that. That's our pay. That's the internal wealth we get from this, is knowing that we changed somebody's life, Donnie. Somebody's life has changed because of something we did or something we said. And I think we get caught up because we think that we can't make enough of a difference, and the problem is that we have to understand the value in one kid changing their life. One kid decides not to use drugs because of something I told them. That changes that kid's life. It changes the family's life and the community's life. It's much bigger than that, And,
I remember, like, when Angela came on this show, we had some friends. We had a mutual connection before this, but she came on as a guest. And I remember after she came on and how I talked to her, and she shared with me how blown away she was. Like, sometimes we forget how much power our story, how much power what we're doing has. And I remember, Angela, you coming to me, and you were just sharing all these messages. People reached out, strangers, some friends, some people you don't even think that admire you, and they were telling you, Ange, remember?
Yeah, I mean, I still, every day I still feel that way. And I'll get messages, and, I'll be having a bad day or a lot of discomfort, and, because you can't be positive every day with a terminal illness, right? Because I'm just happy to wake up in the morning today. So the messages I get where people are, I get that reminder, because I didn't set out to say I'm going to change the world, and I didn't set out to, I was doing things specifically because I know that there's people who are struggling, and I know there's people who are facing death, like I'm facing death. But there's a way that you can try to face death in if you can, a more positive way. But I just can't. I get reminders every day where people are like, you're truly an inspiration, and you just don't realize you're doing what you're doing. And this is what we're doing every day.
Oh, man, I love you for that, and I appreciate that. I'm, guys, I just lost my friend of 45 years today. Okay?
Sorry for your loss, Richard.
I'm sorry.
Best friend I ever had, one of the very best friends, standing friend. And as you know, my parents are gone. Everybody's, and I was at his bedside for the last 3 weeks, and that's been my days. And this guy fought through cancer 10 years with grace, with positivity. And what he taught me was courage and strength. And, I just want to say that Andrew has taught me so much over. He was the guy that righted my ship. He always made the right choice. And here we are, I got back to Opens and I went straight to the hospital, and I've been at his bedside every day for the past 3 weeks, every single day. And I watched him, and we had him out of bed a couple weeks ago talking a little bit, but it just slowly regressed. I watched this happen before my eyes at his bedside. And what I want to tell you is, he taught me, Buddhist, and he taught me in my life, but then he taught me through death too. Like, he didn't want to quit. He didn't want to give up. And even in the worst of struggle for him, functioning these last few years, he stayed positive, and he was going to beat it, and he taught us how to juice, and he taught us about, Andrew taught me a lot about perseverance and strength and courage, man. And I just want to tell you, man, that lives were changed because of his attitude through it. I love him, and I will carry on some traditions because of him. And my life's changed permanently because of the way he handled his days, and I got a call this afternoon. I accepted this. I got the call. I was, out of the past 3 weeks, I've only missed 3 days up there at the hospital, and so, and what I'm going to tell you is that I sent him a message to my mom, because there's a lot of healing for me to be at his bedside. I think it was as much for him as it was for me too. It's cancer's is what we're talking about. He's changed my life. And what you're doing, this is just a small speck. This podcast and what I've learned about what you're doing through what I've done over the past 15 years is that there's lives that we'll never know that were changed because of you. Because of you, there are lives you will never know that their life has changed because of you. And this last 2 years being shut down, what I'm learning is how much my story has gone out there, and I just want to keep doing what I'm doing, because I think it's important work. And as long as I'm relevant, as long as I still have shelf life, and as long as I still feel deeply loved for what I do, then I'm going to keep going, till they say you're just too old, you're but what you're doing is amazing. I love you for it, and keep on keeping on.
Richard, you talk about how somebody reacts when they go against something that other people know. That a lot of people know cancer. People know what can happen with cancer. Our next guest who's going to join us is a guy, Jim Raffone, where in 2013, him and his wife were basically told that their son, they said there's no hope. Just bring him home and watch your son die. That's what our next guest, he was told this. Imagine being told, your son has a disease he cannot beat. He will not beat this. Just take him home, just wait for him to die. And Jim and his wife, they said, no, we're not going to do this. And they started Jar of Hope. We're going to bring Jim Raffone on to tell his story. Keep you on, Richard. You're part of this. James.
Good evening, guys. How are you?
How's it going?
Outstanding. And before we get into my story, I just want to say to everybody who's out there listening that I'm very conscious that everybody goes through some level or some degree of crap. And hats off to the former guest, Richard, for doing what you do. And the people want to throw around the term hero, but you're a hero to a lot of people out there. And I was catching what you guys were saying, waiting in the green room, so to speak, this virtual green room. And I applaud your efforts and everything that you're doing. And I apologize or my condolences for for the loss of your friend. I know that's not easy.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
You're very welcome. And Donnie, thank you. And Angela, thank you for having me on. This is an amazing show. And I can see I'm surrounded by amazing people. And that's where I like to be in life, especially, Donnie, what you were saying about my son's prognosis and what doctors literally told my wife and I to go home and love my son. There's nothing we can do to save his life. And it's an awful position to be in.
Yeah, man, just being told that, man. I went through the loss of my brother. I went through losing everything, going to jail, and even like there, it was basically like I was supposed to just give up. And even like the judges and stuff basically said, this just give up. This is your life now, and there's no way out of it. And I know what it's like to fight against them odds. I don't know what it's like to be told your son has such a serious thing going on, but I know pain. I know what it's like to feel no hope. And your story, what you're doing through Jar of Hope, is amazing. Just tell us some about Jar of Hope and your amazing journey, your wife's journey, and your amazing son's journey.
Yes.
Thank you. So my son was diagnosed in September of 2013. And back then, I had no aspirations whatsoever for Jar of Hope. My goal was to actually seek out other families who potentially are going through this before I was. Consider them the seniors in the Duchenne community, because that's what he suffers from, Duchenne muscular dystrophy. But unfortunately, there were not many people around who were looking for someone like myself to help them out. And then that's when Jar of Hope was given birth, because, I hate to go back to it, but, to look at doctors, as everybody does, as the beacon of light when you're in a medical situation, and they threw their hands up. And this disease has been around for 200 years, and they're still reiterating the fact that there's nothing that can be done for children who suffer from this disease. And my son was only 4 years old, and I was not going to give up. So quickly, by November, we had formed Jar of Hope, and the Jar of Hope stands for James Anthony Raffone. And anybody can go and check us out at jarofhope.org. And he is the inspiration behind what we do every day, but where the magnitude in which Jar of Hope has gone, it's now become this global phenom, which I'm so proud of, because it just took a life of its own on. And when you go out and you do something, and like you said, Donnie, about fighting against the odds, which we were, I didn't realize that how many other families were out there who were so desperate to save their children. This is a rare disease, which means there's less than 17,000 families in the United States who suffer from this disease. There's more families globally, outside of America. And those families too quickly reached out to me to see how they can get involved and get on this Jar of Hope train to try and take down Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Right soon after my son was diagnosed, I went down to Washington, D.C., and met with members of Congress and started putting into effect some things that are today still helping families with Duchenne. And that was one, is to increase the budget in the NIH, as well as start a clinical study for children to go into a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, HBOT. Donnie, I don't know if you're familiar with that. You seem to take very good care of yourself. So this chamber is a device that helps muscle recovery. And my son was the first child ever to sleep in a hyperbaric chamber. And that's a whole nother story, how we got into that. And the doctors who thought I was going to wind up killing my son. And lo and behold, 9 years later, he still sleeps in this chamber every other night. And we seem to have rescued his cardiac function, his pulmonary function, and his respiratory function, which is something Duchenne
Amazing.
takes immediately away from children. Children pass away between the ages of 5 to 20. Very rare do they leave past the age of 21, but from cardiac arrest, and which is a problem in fighting Duchenne. But thank you, Angela, for that. Yes.
Yeah.
So, I looked at this from a bodybuilder's or a personal trainer's perspective, that how do you maintain muscle tissue on yourself, and how do we do that then for children? The supplement industry, nobody wants to talk about children who are dying in the supplement industry to help them maintain and recover muscle tissue. But today we started a supplement line to do just that. One, to increase children's immune system, to keep them healthier, because the healthier they are, the less likely they are to break down muscle tissue. How do we maintain whatever muscle tissue these children's bodies do have? That was the approach we took. And my son is above the average child who's sick with Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and I'm very proud of that as well. And my goal is, thanks to a platform like yours, is to share what we've done with my son with the world to other children or other families who are in this situation where their doctors are saying, well, there's really nothing we can do for him. So, but there are things that can be done. And through platforms like this, I'd love to meet other doctors who think outside the box. I work with a clinic right now in New York City that does think outside the box. And we've helped 9 children get into a private study where we parents fund a compound to the tune of $25,000 every 90 days to keep my son and other children healthy, which seems to be working. We flew a little boy in from Ireland, and after a year of being on this particular compound, he was receiving an infusion every 90 days, so 4 or 5 times within a calendar year, and we got that little boy to be able to run a 5K, which was remarkable.
Wow.
Something children with Duchenne can never do.
Right, because usually by their teenage years, and correct me if I'm wrong, James, because we spoke about this, Donnie and I, because you were climbing Mount Everest, so you weren't able to be here, but we did talk about DMD, and usually in their teenage years, the beginning of their teenage years, they're usually wheelchair bound, correct?
That's correct, and even earlier, between the ages of 8 to potentially 12 years old, kids lose the ability to walk. You're right.
So that's incredibly amazing that this little boy was able to do a 5K. I mean, that, and Donnie and I, like I said, we spoke last show, and, people hear of muscle dystrophy. We know what that is. There's research, there's, documentaries about it. And I was shocked being in the mental health and medical field that I have never heard of this. And it's really unfortunate that this is not well known.
Unfortunately, Duchenne, right? It was named after a French doctor. It's been around 200 years, and unless you're in the medical field within this space, you don't know of it. I didn't know of it when my son was diagnosed with it. I was floored, and for a geneticist to look at me and tell me that your son will never be able to play baseball, he'll never be strong enough to pick up a bat, he'll never be strong enough to throw a baseball. It just floored me in this medical day and age of what we're doing with certain diseases. Right. And yet Duchenne goes unnoticed. It's heartbreaking. It really is.
How does it, Jim, back in 2013, I can't relate the fact, like I said, but I know that hopelessness when you were told to take your son home and watch him die, and now you're here in 2022. You've raised over $8 million. You were just climbing Mount Everest to bring probably millions of people have learned about this, including me and Angela, that didn't know about this before. You have brought kids in from Ireland. You have made kids fight in this, not just your son's life, but other kids' life better. How does it feel to go from that feeling you felt? I know you felt that feeling in 2013, that feeling of hopelessness, to go to here you are, man. You're on every show every day. You're all over. You're doing this for something bigger than you, even bigger than your son. How does that feel now, Jim?
It's that's a tough question to answer, because I'm proud to be raising awareness for these children, but at the same time it hurts because I haven't been able to get us to the finish line where there's a cure. When I started this in 2013, there were children that I got to meet and became very fond of, and then unfortunately they lost their battle, and that hurts. That really hurts. But to bring Jar of Hope into this world, to give birth to it, because that's basically what we did, and then to see what it's doing for the families potentially, it's very heartwarming. And like you said, it's bigger than me now. It so is. And there's so many people who have helped me get to this position that I'm thankful and indebted to them every single day, because without them, we call it Team Jamesy, and it's right here in my arms. And if it wasn't for Team Jamesy, I don't know where we would be. And I'm so grateful to everybody who supports and fights with us every day.
Yeah, we have Richard here. Richard has shared his story all across the country with kids. He goes into schools, he speaks. You see kids all day. Richard, what do you feel about this and what Jim has done, what he has been able to do? Richard, you there?
I think he's frozen.
Richard's frozen, but you've done these crazy, not just these amazing things. You've done ultra marathons from New Zealand to Australia. You did the Grand 171 race. It's 171 miles over 7 days in Grand Canyon. You did the celebrity boxing event. You just got back from Mount Everest. Where did that idea came from to do all this stuff?
So it's okay to use the word crazy because a lot of people use that word, especially around me lately. To run 171 miles in the desert with everything on your back to survive is a little unorthodox.
To do greatness, sometimes you got to be crazy. I'm crazy as hell, and I'm chasing greatness, Jim.
You do, and if it wasn't for these types of events, we would not have gotten the publicity that we did. And Everest is one of them. And right. So you bring up a good point. How did we get to Everest? So I have a very near and dear friend of mine who I grew up with, who was with me from day one, who helped me fight and get a lot of things off the ground financially. Unfortunately, lost his battle Christmas Day of 2021. And we had together put together a Texas Hold'em event in honor of his father, who had passed away 2 years earlier, which raised a significant amount of money for us. Every February, we had a Texas Hold'em event in between the Super Bowl and the championship game, which, that Sunday is usually a dead day, and it worked out wonderfully for us. But then my buddy lost his battle, who was one of my son's biggest heroes. And I couldn't in good conscience hold that Texas Hold'em event without him there. And we needed the family. We needed to give them time to mourn. I needed time to mourn. And in that dark, dark moment, staring at his picture, which is right in front of me on the wall, almost proverbially like talking to him as to, what do I do? You're not here. How do we fix this void of losing potentially $150,000 in the month of February? And like the hairs on the back, whatever I got left are standing up on my head right now. And it said, in order to do something that's never been done before, you need to do things that have never been done before, at least by me, right? Everest has been tried and true by several people in the last 200 years, but no one in my small circle. As a matter of fact, I was the third person in the history of New Jersey to go to base camp at Everest. So not too many people try this. And that's when it came to me. It was 40 days out. And I said, in order to do something, to try and make up that pitfall, I got to do something off the charts. And Everest was it. And it proved to be the right move. Thank God. And, it all came together. And I believe he was with me every step of the way.
Yeah, it's just amazing to see. I just always go back to where you were 2013 to now. I always just try to remember that. And you bring up how he's with you. We were just talking before the show, and this journalist and photographer, they said, like, Donnie, do you feel sometimes your brother, my brother who passed away in 2014, they're like, do you feel like he's still with you? And yeah, man, this is everything I do is because of him. Hungry for Hope is James Hart. It's him. He always said he wanted to change the world. I didn't know him changing the world, that somebody had to plan for him to do that. He had to pass away, and he had to feed my fire. That's all I ever wanted to do. And now I realize, maybe that's what had to happen. And maybe you're going through all this because James Raffone was put on this earth to do something bigger than him, to do something bigger than just one person. And, you go through these things, and they suck, man. Losing anybody being diagnosed with any kind of sickness, man, it sucks, man. Death sucks, man. I've been there, but maybe it's something bigger than you, James, like we just said.
I agree with everything you just said, and an American author once wrote, the two greatest days of your life are the day you were born and then the day you realize why.
Yep.
And September 13, 2013 it really smacked me in the face as to why I'm here on this earth. And I firmly believe, like, a lot of people ask me, why your son? And for me to be in this fight, I don't believe I would have done it to the magnitude in which I'm doing it if it was not for my son. Right. So why my son? Because it's been 200 years and there needs to be a change. And maybe, maybe he is the inspiration to make the change that is needed. I'm hoping. And the only thing I fear in life right now is finding this cure not within my son's lifetime. And I don't know if I'd be able to live it myself after that, but I know and understand and respect everything you said about your son or your brother rather. And I think my son is the reason why he has Duchenne now, is to get the height of awareness that it needs. Duchenne needs to become a household name before, and I mean no disrespect to anybody who was diagnosed or fighting this before me, but we have taken this to a whole nother level with the whole East Coast. I've been to Canada. You mentioned New Zealand. I've climbed the tallest mountain in New Zealand. I've been to Australia. We did push-ups with 5,000 people in Sydney, Australia, which is just remarkable. I've been to Utah, where we've done push-ups with 260 gyms throughout the country, 55 schools. Thousands of children have learned about it. And, if I can share with you, I was even on a military base in Hawaii because there were some soldiers who heard that I was on a different island doing push-ups with BJ Penn and invited me onto their base. And we went up to a mountaintop and we did push-ups with the Marines. And this is an entirely different level that anybody's ever fought this before. And it's largely due to the team around me. It really is.
Jimmy, you brought up one point that me and Angela have talked about so much, and I understand now, but so many days, so many nights back in 2014, 2015, I spent up at night. I couldn't sleep, and I asked the same question over and over and over. Why? Why me? Why did I lose my dream? Why did my brother die? Why am I in jail? Why? And I just, I couldn't find that answer. I'm sure Angela spent nights in the beginning when, why me? Especially in her case, she was diagnosed with something she did not deserve. She didn't do anything to get stage 4 lung cancer. She just got it at a young age. And I spent so many nights, man. And then somebody finally started making sense. They told me, this is on purpose. At first, I was angry. What do you mean? My brother died on purpose? I'm in jail on purpose? I lost everything on purpose? This is supposed to happen? And yes, it's supposed to happen because, just like you say, you got to the only way you can bring recognition to this is going through what you're going through. The only way I might be able to save somebody who's going through something like me or might go through something like me is by me going through it and me surviving. And I feel like that's exactly where Angela is. That's where I'm at. That's where Richard Jensen's at. And I feel like you're in that same spot, James. Why not us?
Yeah.
Why not?
I agree. And, not to bring up another tragic time in Americans' history, but, 2000, when the trade centers fell, 9/11, I was standing at the base of 2 World Trade Center. And in an instant, if I had gone left, I firmly believe, and gone into the courtyard, I would not be here today. But I decided to go right towards the water, towards the West Side Highway, which afforded me this opportunity to be here in life. And I was on Wall Street. I used to work on Wall Street, and I loved my career and where I was going at the time. And, I didn't have my son then. And I firmly believe that everything that I have gone through and learned, and I don't take anything for granted anymore. I'm talking about business, being on Wall Street and be able to talk with investment bankers the way I was able to learn how to do that, to everything else that transpired afterwards, and dealing with mental health professionals because I had to go to therapy as to why I survived that day. And I take everything that I've learned in this journey and I apply it to making it better for the children who have Duchenne, for the families who have Duchenne, and the few of the people that get missed are the siblings whose brother or sister has Duchenne. And I believe that for me, if I don't look at it this way, I'll lose my mind, because I have to in order to make a difference in this community. And I think you're doing the same thing. I mean, even this show is tremendously positive. Hungry for hope. You're absolutely right. I think this world is hungry for hope. And Richard was talking about it earlier, right? I mean, you talk about the news. You watch the news for 5 minutes, and it's nothing but heartbreak and wrenching. And here you are. You've got stories of hope that really lift people's spirits and shows how humanity comes together regardless of what we're going through, right? Angela's strife, your strife, my strife, but yet we're here, we're helping each other heal to a degree, but on a bigger platform, we're helping in those silos that we all unfortunately suffer in. We do by having these conversations.
Jim, you brought up how you were there before your kid. You're on Wall Street. A lot of people might think like Wall Street, that's a life. When I was giving the interview before the show, they asked me a question I kept on getting. When I started getting pieces of my life back together, the one question that kept on coming up, when is Donnie Hart going back to pro wrestling? I wanted to be a pro wrestler since I was 5. I got to live that life for a little. Everybody wanted to know, he must be going back into pro wrestling. That's all I ever wanted to do in my life, man. But it wasn't wrestling. I just wanted to change. I wanted to bring hope. I wanted to help people. And wrestling was that way. But I found out when I got into pro wrestling, I like the wrestling. You know what I love more? I love them kids who I changed their life. Them kids who looked up to me. I found something better than pro wrestling, man. People ask, like, why aren't you going back? Because I found something better. Pro wrestling might have been that vehicle to get me maybe a couple more people listen to my story because you throw the pro wrestling in there, make it sound like I'm somebody. I wasn't nobody in pro wrestling, but maybe people will listen. And that's my vehicle to get to where I'm at now. And I'm damn happy, man. I feel like I can do so much more out here than inside that ring. I love pro wrestling, but I can do so much more than just hold up a belt and, flex.
Absolutely.
And I feel like that's where you are in your journey. Wall Street was cool, but what you're doing now is a lot cooler, brother.
It's so true. And they say, if you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life. And since September 13 of 2013, I've never viewed this as a job. To me, this was a mission. And I've embraced the military so much more ever since this situation has happened, because there's an objective. It's to find a cure. And the mission is to get out of bed every day and push this science one step further every single day. And to me, it doesn't matter how much money I make or don't make a day, as long as I can pay my bills and as long as there's an outcome of me making a difference in these kids' lives. Because it's amazing, like when you're in the wrestling world, right? Forever how brief it is. The fact that you made a little child smile that one day, you changed their day, right? And they look up to you because of that, and it's beautiful. And potentially that moment in time, you were doing that to be able to have that network to share in what you're doing now, right? And you can touch more people by doing this, by sharing in that network. And you just got to see that vision. And it's a beautiful thing that you potentially have before you and Angela.
I mean, sometimes we are shown our vision, are shown our purpose in life in the worst, most heartbreaking situations. And at least for my situation, that's what it is for me.
Yeah, I always say, man, the greatest thing about our worst day, the worst day was when my brother died, when I got that phone call. But the greatest thing about that worst day, you can take that worst day and you can use that to become your best days. My brother's still dead. Things haven't changed, He's still dead last time I checked, man. And it sucks, but I use that memory, that same pain that took me to my darkest depth, it has taken me to my highest, man. So anybody out there, if you're facing a disease, if you're facing some kind of demon, if you're just fighting something you don't think you can beat, God damn it, you can. Mm-hmm. You could take your worst days and you can go to your best days. Richard just shared his amazing story, 15 years homeless, addicted to drugs, in jail. And then he he didn't just wrestle, he became a national champion. The guy went back at college at 36 years old. They laughed at him. He has an Emmy for his story on ESPN. Mm-hmm. What you're doing, Jim, $8 million, over $8 million raised through Jar of Hope, through James Anthony Raffone. Mm-hmm. Jar of Hope, it is your son. He is living, no matter how long he lives, he will live for so much longer through Jar of Hope, just like my brother lives through Hungry for Hope, just like Angela's story will live forever It's just amazing stuff. Everything you're doing.
Thank you. And something I shared with my guys the day before, well, actually the morning when we were heading to Everest, because we were only allotted 45 minutes to be up there at 18,000 feet. It is very difficult to breathe. When we were planning that trip down here in New Jersey at 50 feet above sea level, we had all the bravado in the world that we're going to crush this and we're going to do whatever we wanted to do. But then when we got up there, science said, oh no, you're going to be humbled. And we were humbled. And the guides told us you got 45 minutes because it's going to be very difficult to breathe. But we wound up spending 2 hours up there. And the morning we were heading up there, it took us a little over 7 hours to hike from the village we were in to base camp. And I told the guys, we have to move with purpose. Once we get up there, we cannot have a misstep. We have an itinerary of things we need to do, and we need to do it. And we got to do it with the mindset of these children whom we are here for, because that is the purpose. The purpose is not to see Mount Everest. The purpose is to bring Duchenne there, bring the children who suffer from Duchenne muscular dystrophy there. And we wind up doing push-ups, because I have a campaign, 10 push-ups for $10 that I've done, and I've traveled the world doing to raise money for these children and awareness. We have to get through that. And that's the same thing in life. You have to move with purpose. If you just move with no reason whatsoever, you're not going to get anywhere. So for anybody who's out there suffering and you think that you can't, I most certainly will tell you you can. It doesn't matter how small that first step is, but that first step is very, very important. And then from there, you build momentum and things. And that's how exactly Jar of Hope has been able to sustain 9 years of doing what we have done and achieving what we have achieved. It's been amazing because we move with purpose every single day, and we wind up setting a world record up there. Not that that's really important, but for the children it is. We're the only group to ever go to Mount Everest and do push-ups or has ever thought about doing it, and we did it successfully, and I'm quite proud of that. So children with Duchenne muscular dystrophy can say somebody did this for them, and we most certainly did.
Jim, now staying on talking about something that takes amazing strength, we have Angela. She's in chemotherapy, and she goes, we're on round 8 already? We're on round 8 starting on Tuesday.
God bless you. You look amazing.
Listen, everyone keeps saying that, and I'm telling you, I don't feel like I look amazing. So thank you for being kind.
God bless you. You keep up that fight.
So this is a big round.
This is a big round because it is the last round of what they are calling maintenance chemo. So we are doing scans, and the following week, so 8th round is the 31st. We'll do scans, and then depending on what the scans show and what the insurance company decides, because like we talked about that one episode, the insurance company will determine whether I live or die. You know, I it's also my own decision because ultimately I'm in control of this. So, you know, so big round coming up. There is going to be another video. As usual, I do have something creative for you guys.
Angela has used humor and inspiration during her chemotherapy. She does something different. She roller skated into chemotherapy one time, dressed up in a jumpsuit. She dresses up her machines.
Sonny and Cher.
Because sometimes there's such gloom around that. So she has used laughter to inspire people. She did the Staying Alive video last time. She dresses up as Sonny and Cher.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
That was awesome.
That was my most challenging video. I had a very, very, very hard time breathing. Yeah, there it is. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Yeah. There it goes. Yeah. So I definitely have a video coming. It's going to be creative, but it's not going to be as challenging as Staying Alive was. And, you know, I look at it this way. Humor, when there's comedy, when there's laughter, when there's humor, especially during, you know, such a dire situation and for something that's very hard for people to talk about, when there's laughter, there is no time or room for sadness and doom. So that's the way I kind of look at it. And, you know, and I make the nurses' day. You know, they are always looking for, and that just fills my heart with complete joy because I don't do these shenanigans for myself here. So
we're all rooting for her. Before we get out, Jim, anything you want to leave the people with? I know they can follow you, Jar of Hope. You're online. They can jarofhope.org.
.org.
And anything you want to leave Hunger for Hope Nation with? You've been amazing. I just want to thank you so much for everything you're doing, man. You are what this show's about.
Thank you very much. I just want to remind everybody that you can, you will, and you must if you put your mind to it. And that's everything to me. Every single day, you have to keep pushing forward. Do not let the pressures of life push you down. We're stronger than that.
Thank
Well
you
said.
so much. I want to thank Richard Jensen for coming on.
Yes.
We want to send our love out to him. I know he's dealing with the loss of somebody who meant so much to him. He's amazing. You can find him to Be a Champion in Life. It's on social media. He has the book, everything on Amazon. I just want to thank Angela. I want to thank everybody who makes this what it is. Hungry for Hope Nation. We are out of here. We will see you next week. Thank you for tuning in.
Stay safe, everyone.
Stay hungry.